Hello everyone, my name is Harry Wolf, and today we're going to be doing a fun little coding exercise. Before we jump into this little exercise, I want to tell you about the story behind how this exercise came to be. Every year, my wife likes to send out holiday cards to all of our friends and family. She uses some online service for that, but she has stored in a Word file somewhere the addresses of all of our friends and family. And she has them formatted in the way that you'd like print them out and put them onto a mailing card. And the problem is that the service that she uses to actually send these cards requires them to be in a different format, namely a CSV format in a spreadsheet, because computers want to read this and print it out. So every year she asks me if I can do this conversion of taking these human readable addresses and then converting them to data that a computer can read. And I figure, so I did this last week because I love my wife and I'll make sure that she is happy and I can help her with this. But it turned out to be a fun little coding exercise. So I figured that I share that with you, what it means to actually just use these powers for good, like in my home, and share that with you. So if you see here, these are some example addresses that she has, where you have, the address that it's going to, the street, the city, the state, and the zip code. And she had like 50 of them. This is 4, just for example purposes. So this is what I was given by my wife. And then this is the expected output format, where these are the column headers. And then these are the values in there. So let's write a function, or maybe more than one function, to convert this array into essentially one big string like this. So the first thing that we need to do is figure out how to parse this stuff down. And what I like to do actually is reduce the problem set that I'm working on, because trying to deal with so much at once is overwhelming to me. So by just having one thing to work on makes my life a lot calmer. So for here, I'm going to copy this. And then I think for our use cases here, I'm actually going to install this thing called, do I have it installed? Nodemon. npm, oh, I do have it installed, good. So Nodemon is this great little utility, Nodemon app latest. It's a great little utility that will automatically reload your Node code every time you make an edit. It's kind of like live reload for Node. So where did I put this? So I'm going to say Nodemon there. Yes, you can use things in my document. Oh my God, Catalina. Just give me... Why does it need all this access? All right, whatever. That's fine. That was weird. So now I'm going to take this and I want to parse this down. First thing I want to do is this split into separate lines. So I want to split this into separate lines because that's what it is right now. Just to make sure that I'm making progress here, I'm just going to do some fun little logging out of what's going on. So here we have my 3 lines. Okay, cool. So I have 3 lines here that are successfully done here. So actually, let's make a function. We'll say function convert to named parts. This is the input, because I want to actually have, pretty much I want to know, like this is just one string, and I actually want to parse this down into all the parts of it. So let's move input. So we'll say return input split this with a new line. So now I can actually just pass that in as an argument. So convert to named parts, right, like that, and then bring this beneath. Great, everything is still good and good. Let's make this a little bit bigger for your viewing entertainment. Sweet. Okay. So we have this being split correctly. And then I want to parse every line down to its equal parts. So that means I have to iterate over each line and actually convert them and split them out. Like this first section here is going to be the name on envelope, which is fine. And actually, so that's fine. But so what I could do really easily is go, for each line, console log line, right? This is fine. So that's each line. But I actually want to return, what I want to return is a object that has all the parts named. So it's like, name, foo, street one, foo. So that's what I want to return. I actually want to return an object that looks like that. And I could make an object up here that says, result equals this, and then return the result. However, there's a function that builds that in, it builds in looping and collecting values, which is reduce. So reduce, it's a fairly complicated method. I'm not going to delve too deep into it. I want to say that the initial value of it, maybe reduce is its own video one time, because reduce is a very dense thing. But the arguments of reduce, the first argument is a function that gives you the previous value, the current value, and the current index. So what I need to know is I'm going to call it the accumulator, because this is what you're accumulating. I'm not going to go into that. This is the line, and then this is the index, and then this is the full array. And I'll get back to why I need those in a second. But here I have this initial object there. So what I want to say is that let's actually count this. So if the index is 0, which means that I'm on the first line, what I want to say is that this accumulator is name, we'll just call this name, equals line. Okay? So that first line, where am I? So first I'm saying, am I on the first row in this array, which is me and you? And if I am, then that's the name as we know it to be. So I'm going to take this accumulator object here, which represents this object here, and essentially every time that this loops around, this accumulator is going to be the value that returned from this function. So return ACC, like that. Let's delete that, just have it. So now when I return ACC with this modified there, when it loops again, it's going to have the same thing here, but I'm not going to modify it there. So if I actually save now, you can see that the return value is name, me, and you. So I already started to parse out what's going on here. So this is the first thing. Now, the second line, which is the address, is pretty easy to do, but my wife gave me some addresses that actually had 2 lines of addresses, so I don't know if it's the first or the second one. So what I actually need to do is say, is it the last line? So is last line, because the last line is this one where I need to parse the city, state, and zip code. But if there's another address in between here, like for example, if I say 3 apartment complex, like that, if I were to just say else if index equals 1, and then, if index 1 is the first address, and then index 2 is the last address, that wouldn't work because there could be 2 addresses here. So I actually need to know is if I'm on the last item of the array. So if it is last line, which I want to say if the index, which is 0 indexed, plus 1, equals the full array's length. So the full array could be 3 items or 4 items. This is 1 base, it's not 0 base, but the index is 0 base, which means I have to add 1 to get that value to equal the full array length value. So cool. So I'm going to say if it is last line, it's going to be in here, which we'll deal with that later. So to do. I'm going to say else if index equals 1, which means that it's the second line. We can actually say ACC street 1 equals the line. So I say that. So I have street 1, 100 Blue Hollow. Then also I can say down here, else if index equals 2, ACC street 2 equals line. So we have it. 100 Blue Hollow, 3 apartment complex. So I'm starting to break this down into actually pieces that are known by the computer. I can actually, manipulate it as what I want as I actually break up these things. However, in here, this is where things are going to get really unpleasant because this is going to be the line. This is here where I actually have to parse this. So I actually have to parse this value into 3 separate parts. And I could potentially just do a split on here or a split on the space, but there were addresses before that you could say were like, St. Louis, Missouri, right? Then there's additional complications where you can't just split on white space because then you'd get false positives where you'd have 1 item, 2 items, 3 items, 4 items. You can't do that. So in looking at this, what I see as being the standard parts is having this comma here and these digits here. So what I could do is I could split in this comma space and then take the last 5 digits and that would work. So I think that naive way that I could do this is I could say address rest equals line split. We're going to split on a comma space. So comma space. So we're going to say ACC, sorry, this is going to be the city. City. So we're going to say city equals city. Does that work? Cool, St. Louis. And then we're going to say the rest is going to be Missouri 20, that thing. So we could also split there too if we wanted to. So we could say state zip equals rest split space. So ACC state equals state. ACC zip equals zip. That works. So that's great. But then what happens if all of a sudden there's some state that is North Dakota? Now things are wrong again. So what the heck am I going to do? Like, this very naive thing is not working. I don't know how to do it. So I think the best thing to do actually in this case is to use a regex. The sadly true regex. And actually, my favorite way of doing regexes, because I am by no means a guru in regexes, is to actually use a website called regex101.com. It is my favorite site for actually debugging how to write regexes. So I'm saying I'm using a JavaScript flavor. Let's bump it up here. Here's my test string where I actually want to start parsing things out. So like, for example, the first thing that I can do is say that I want to match 5 digits. So because I never remember anything about it, I always remember some. So you can do any digit. So we're going to say any digit. So here we have, these are match information. 1 match, 2 match. So these are 5 matches because it's matching every digit, but I actually want to match an instance where there are 5 digits. So I can say this. So that's 1 full match. So I've now matched 1 digit right here. And I actually want this to be a capturing group to actually be able to capture that zip code. Then here I want to actually match characters up until a comma space. So I'm going to say, oh man, struggling with regexes. We're going to say, for ease of my sake, I'm going to say anything, any single character. So we're going to say another capturing group. So I want to capture a group. So say any single white character, 0 or more times. So actually 1 or more times, A plus. So that captures now all of this. But what I actually want to put into here is a space. Do I do this space like that? Capture anything up until the I get a space and a comma. Well, let's actually remove this because I think this is causing issues there. Yes, so St. Louis. So I'm matching up until, so I'm matching any character except for line terminators 1 or more times. This is a capture group. And then I'm matching the character comma literally and a space literally. So the capturing group is capturing St. Louis, and it's having a break here. And again, what I want to do is any non there, one or more times, there. So North Dakota, and then I'm going to paste that back in there. So that might be the regex that I want to use. So let me actually take this, go back here, and what I'm going to do is comment this stuff out. We call this regex equals this. What was that saying? That was saying G and M. G and M is G and M modifier. So we'll use those modifiers to make sure things are good. We're going to use the exect method on regex that executes a search on a string using a regular expression pattern and returns an array containing the results of that search. So it returns an array, that's the key point of that. So we have the line here. So now result, if I console log this result, it is a array of values here. You see things are starting to look nice, and actually, if we actually wanted to change this a little bit to say a space, look at that. So what actually I can do here is say, you know, the first item is the full string, so I don't really care about that, full. Then it's the city, state, and zip, like that. So if I comment these three things out, save that, result, oh, whoops. Look at that. Look at that. We got the name, the street 1, street 2, city, state, and zip. So we have here convert to name parts. That is working successfully now. But that's not all we need to do, though. We need to actually convert this into that CSV file. Like this is, we're only halfway done here. So let's take this, and we're going to wrap this around again. So we're going to make a new function called convert to CSV. Paste that in there. We'll copy and paste this. We can get rid of this documentation stuff. So we'll say function convert to CSV, which is obj, is what we're getting back. And essentially what we want to do is return a common delimited string. So there's two ways to do this. One, you can easily just say return obj name. Actually, sorry, make a template string. So one way you could do this is make a template string. So you can do this, comma, etc., etc., etc. That's not really flexible. It's hard to kind of maintain. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy and paste all of these. Here's my VS Code few coming in. Copy that. I'm going to paste this into this array. So it's name, and these we're actually going to move up here. City, state, zip. We're going to select all these again, add commas. So now I've turned this object into an array that I can then join with a semicolon and save that. This is going to be obj. Look at that. Here we have it. So it's being parsed. So that means that I can then now take my addresses, and I can take my addresses and map them to convert to named parts, and then map them to convert to CSV. So let's get rid of that. Save that. Oh no! What happened here? It's not a function where its return value is not iterable. So I actually put in here some fun little clever thing to make things unpleasant. So what I'm actually going to do there is I'm going to do a little try catch here to see what the heck is going on here. Put that in there. And we're going to say console log, it's console error actually. And we're going to say the line. Like what is, of course everything's just not happy. Let's move this all into the try catch because of, there we go. Aha, so look at this. Let's just save this again, clear that, save it. So this, let's say, boom, boom. This is throwing an error. And can you guess why? I think I made this too hard for myself. No, I didn't. Essentially, what I've done, there's no comma here. So of course it's going to fail. And what I could do is change my regex, but because I control the inputs, I'm just going to cheat and fix that myself, because I can just sanitize it there. And when I fix that, now I have everything here correct. So I have an array of values. Then of course what I can do further from that if I wanted to is take this and then join this with a new line. And there we have it. There's my string. There's the string that I can then paste into a CSV file, give to the website, and then print out those addresses for my dear and loving wife. And that's kind of the power of, knowing how to code a little bit. Putting these things together, sanitizing it a little bit to make my life happy. But now I actually have this saved so that next year when she asks me to do it, I can literally just pump in those values through my 2 functions and I'm good to go. A fun little experiment. I had a lot of fun, like literally just sitting down on the couch, figuring out how I could do this, and solved it. And it was fun enough to kind of share with you. So hopefully you enjoyed that walkthrough of how you can kind of use these programming powers for good, because they are powers, I guess. They're just a little scary sometimes. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you're not already a subscriber, do become a subscriber, and I'll see you again in the next video when you are there as well. I have to always make sure I have a wet mouth for that. Most important part of the video when I say bye.